Hi, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Bar Exam. We are going to break down the bars and bring the truth like we always do. I'm your host, Allie Rayner, also known as Al Rain on all socials. I am here with my co-host, the insightful music journalist, Eric G. How you doing, Eric?
What's the deal, y'all? What's good? What's good?
What's up? And then we have media personality himself, Mr. Marcus TV. How you doing, Marcus?
Oh, what's going on?
What's up? Okay, so coming to the bar this week, we're discussing rappers known for lying or exaggerating. So, you know, from street cred to fabricated backstories, we're diving into the rhymes and reasons behind some of the most notorious falsehoods in the game. So, we all picked our own rapper, a rapper that we felt like really embodied this topic. So I don't know who wants to start first. Does it matter? I don't know. Do you guys want me to go
You,
first? Or?
yeah, you never go
Yeah,
first.
go ahead.
Okay, cool. All right. For me, it had to be Takashi, aka Takashi 69, whatever he wants to be called. He's definitely been known for his rainbow colored hair, facial tattoos, and aggressive rap style. He popped out onto the scene around 2017, and he basically claimed that he was affiliated with the Nine Trey Gangsta Bloods in New York City. But during his trial in 2019, it was revealed that his association with the gang was primarily for image and protection after he gained fame. So yeah, that was one of the reasons or one of the examples as to him being a liar has to go through, with his gang affiliation. And then next would have to be in that same case for snitching. They're saying that, because, or the internet says, because he testified against his former gang members, that was qualified as snitching because before he was saying that he was the head honcho, he was running the place. Now he's on the stand pointing out everybody. And then he did a bunch of different publicity stunts where he targeted different rappers like Meek Mill and Lil Durk to attempt to get, publicity in the media and just get more people viewing his content. So yeah, so those are just a few different reasons as to why I picked Tekashi 69. What do you guys think? Do you think that he is considered one of the biggest liars in hip hop?
I mean, it's wow. This is funny. I can't even remember the last time I even talked about Takashi 69. Um, the funny thing about him, just as an artist, was he came out of the gate lying before we even like figured out who he was in the raps. That first beat, or that first single or whatever that he dropped, that Gummo record, like he claimed that that Pierre gave him the beat, like Pierre Bourne gave him the beat, like on some friend to friend, like artist to artist type shit. When that wasn't the case, he originally sent that beat pack off to Trippy Red actually, and Trippy Red was supposed to get on that song. And I guess Trippy picked out a bunch of the beats that he wanted to keep, and he gave that beat to Takashi 69. So then 69 just ran it and put it out as a single without Pierre even knowing, or even like knowing if he was going to be credited for it. He eventually was because labels had to step in and shit. But I mean, this is a guy who, like, he tried to get Chief Keef killed. Like, this dude's done a lot of shit. But yeah, as far as the actual rapping goes, I mean, he was lying about being the head of a gang when the whole time he wasn't. I mean, to be caught up in the way that he was caught up was probably the biggest, like, one of the biggest busts we'll probably ever see. And when I say bust, I mean bust as in, like, in terms of an artist, like, he's gone and he's out of here, all the way down to the fact that, like, he promoted a lifestyle that clearly he had no business being a part of.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. Honestly, he definitely stuck out in the gang. From the beginning, I remember when he popped out and he had like the bandana, and eventually that he did the hair, the rainbow hair and stuff. It just, a lot of it was inconsistent, and it seemed like it was hard for him to keep up with all these lies after a while. So yeah, I totally agree. It was like compounding situations one after another where he would continue to just be exposed. So yeah, and apparently he's somewhere in the Dominican Republic right now, locked up, not necessarily doing too much better than when we last saw him. So yeah, if you see him out there, let us know if he's still out there lying. I'm sure he is. But okay, so that's my choice. Marcus, would you like to go next?
We can, but back to Tekashi real quick. I don't know if Tekashi was lying.
Okay. Why do you say that?
So he said he would. So leader and affiliation are two different things. We no one believed he was ever leading the Bloods in the New York set, but technically he was affiliated. So I can't, like I if you're gonna tell me he had a whole bunch of them and they was listening, he was giving orders. Okay, then yes, that's a what is the thing on Maury, that my nigga is a lie. like the lie detector came back that it was a lie. But was he gang affiliated? Absolutely. Like, because you can't snitch if you're not gang affiliated. Who are you snitching on? So you can't,
I see what you mean.
Like he can't, I can't say. And then the reason that I actually, and this is gonna sound so fucking crazy to defend Tekashi, he had a documentary called Supervillain before the trial came out. Like I literally watched this before he was indicted and snitched and did all of this, and it was like who he was before, and it was more of like his story, and he was on some wild. The way I can explain it, he was on some wild, crazy shit, and it just never took off. So he was like on some Marilyn Manson, BDSM rapping type shit. Nobody was really, motherfuckers wasn't feeling that shit. Then he tried to go and do something else, and motherfuckers really wasn't doing that. He could never find, and then he found this. He was like, oh shit, if I get with these gang members and this stuff, I can blow up and I can get my name. And then he started doing this. It was more of him just looking for a gimmick than actually like, I'm gonna lie. Like I said, you got to watch the whole Supervillain because they piece like different parts of Tekashi's life together. It was actually a decent documentary. So that's the only reason I'm like, Tekashi. But if you're gonna say he was the leader of a gang in the Blood set, no, then he's a liar. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But this is the first time in bar exam I have absolutely no bars for this next person who I'm going to say, because the bars don't matter.
Okay.
It's actually Rick Ross. Freeway Ricky Ross with the stolen name from the real Freeway Ricky Ross that you now own, that the real Rick Ross has to pay you royalties on his name. No, but there's no bigger fraud than that in the modern hip hop era. Like there's no way you can't. Excuse me. There's no way you can even say anybody's comparable.
I think you might be right.
I mean, we're talking about, not only have you stolen someone's name, you're flat out stolen the name. You've stolen their lifestyle, and now you're portraying a D-boy lifestyle, trap Port of Miami lifestyle that was never yours. It's the names. Like if you told me that they made a parody, and like, are y'all in the comics? Have you seen, like, so you're familiar with Venom, right?
Yeah.
Think of Venom as the real real Freeway Ricky Ross, and then he took over Rick Ross's body, and he just makes him do all of this shit now, like all the shit you see, like yeah, we gonna have a court show, and that's the Venom, you know. That's Venom. That's the Venom talking. Every time you see Rick Ross with a viral moment, that's not him. That's the persona talking. You know, like that. There's no one in the modern hip hop era has stolen something, ran with it, monetized it, is known for it, while the original person who did it is left with nothing.
And is still alive and is still like has done multiple interviews talking about how he's tried to actually connect with him in real life. And
he was just on Joe Rogan the other day talking about it. Like
that's what I'm saying.
An episode just released like last week. And the interesting thing about that is what you're talking about, Marcus. It was the difference of like a couple of days. Like had he filed his lawsuit against the rapper Rick Ross for the rights to his name like 2 days earlier or something like that, then he would have been able to fight it in court, but it had passed the statute of limitations based on when he got released from prison. So had he got released,
I didn't know that.
Had he got released from prison like a week earlier or a few days earlier, he would have been all right to file that lawsuit, but it had just passed the statute of limitations and the judge was like, nope.
Hold on. So can I pause you right there for a moment? So just hear me out, because I'm taking what you're saying based on fact, right? Because we know that to be true.
Yeah,
so
yeah. This is what he said. This is what he said to Joe Rogan on the most recent episode that he was on.
So you're telling me that because he was released from prison based on his release date from prison, the statute of limitations passed for him that file the name on his own namesake, and the person who stole your name was a former correctional officer who would know when your release date was, and how, like, bro, you just broke the internet and you didn't know it.
And then on top of that,
think about that.
That's why I said I gotta slow it down. Like,
and on top of that, think about this. They picked a very specific date, because this is how it was explained. It was from the time the rapper Rick Ross became publicly known, that's when the countdown began. From the time he became publicly known as Rick Ross, you had like a 7-year window or whatever to file your lawsuit. And so they picked, this is where the judge was grimy at, I feel like, and he had it in for Freeway Rick Ross. They picked the very first time Rick Ross ever had a song play on Miami radio locally. That is when they decided that he was publicly known as Rick Ross from that point on. So that was the date that Freeway Ricky Ross had 7 years from to.
What date should it have been?
I mean, probably around the time Hustlin' came out, realistically. You know what I mean?
I'm going to agree.
That's when he was nationally known as Rick Ross outside of the Miami area, but they went to when he was underground man, had one song, first song ever on the radio type shit, probably in like 96, 97, something like that. Like, and they were like, okay, you are publicly known as Rick Ross from then on. So from that day, he had 7 years to file his lawsuit. And because he was in prison, he couldn't do it. Had he got out like a week earlier, he would have been able to.
Insane.
That's so. Could you imagine the only thing that, because I thought about this too. What? Okay, let's just say Rick Ross wasn't. Who comparable, namesake wise, could take the likeness of somebody and run with it? Like, who would be equal to that? And then have the type of success afterwards, and not be the only one that I could come up with was Big Meech.
So actually, I'll spin the block on this on this question, because Eric's pick actually falls into that category. So,
oh, okay.
Yeah. Do we want to go into mine now?
Well, yeah, nigga, don't keep us waiting.
All
You're
right.
already talking for us
All
like
right,
Jesus.
fuck it. All right, I'm just okay. I was waiting on my cue. All right.
Oh,
yeah.
Dun dun
All
dun.
right, so I actually picked because I wanted to kind of go back to something that Ali said at the beginning, how we kind of all picked people who we kind of like know are liars. I picked a rapper who I don't think lies a lot in their music at all, but in this particular instance, he did lie because of the because of the portrayal of the song that he was trying to deliver, and the rapper in question is 50 Cent. So, yeah, I don't think listening to 50 Cent throughout pretty much my whole time growing up, I don't really look at him as much of a liar because we have facts and real life stories to go off of to know that, at least in my book, 80% of 80 to 90% of what 50 is telling about in his actual life is probably facts. But on the song High All the Time, where he's like, give me some Dro purple haze and some chocolate, give me a Dutch and a lighter, I'll spark shit. And I stay high all the time. I smoke that good shit. No, you don't, 50. You never did. You never smoked that good shit. You never even drank nothing. Because, like, in a classic interview that he gave, like, right after that album came out, was when he first, like, admitted that he doesn't dabble in drugs, doesn't drink, doesn't do anything like that. And throughout his entire career, he has maintained that to all the way up until this point, all the way up until the point of him having his own liquor brand for a numerous amount of years and still hasn't touched anything. So that was one part, like one flaw that I found was that out of all the times that we've known 50 to more than likely tell the truth, on that record, on throughout the entire record, he's not telling the truth. So that was why I picked that one.
I like that one because, yeah, I think that is kind of crazy that you're sitting up here selling liquor. I think it's like some type of cognac or something, and he doesn't drink. That's still insane to me. I don't know who interviewed him, but I'm pretty sure like years ago, Game had said that he didn't even believe that 50 got shot as many times as he said he did because he said it had something to do, like, he said that because 50 said that it was, like, by Game's grandma's house or something. And he was like, yeah, that didn't happen by my grandma's house. Something crazy, yeah. And I'm like, I don't know. I got to go back and look at that interview because I was like, I don't know if he ever said that was in front of your grandma's house. Huh?
If you want to talk about one rapper that's a liar, it's the Game.
Hey,
why do you say that?
Boy, the Game has name dropped more niggas. I'm on the moon like Neil Armstrong, and I just had the Armstrong. Like, I mean, come on, Game. Like, Game will name drop some shit in a minute, bruh. I mean, I got the iPhone 20 and it's by Steve Jobs. Like, like
hey,
Game
I'm a huge Game fan, but I look, there's like two lyrics that came into my head when Eric said Game. So on Start From Scratch, he says, or no, I'm sorry, on I Don't Need Your Love, from his first album, the documentary, he says, he's talking about getting shot, and then he says, I still ain't found them niggas, but karma come quicker for a nigga on the other side of the gun. That's something I gotta teach my son, right? So he says he doesn't know, he never found the people who shot him in that song. Mm-hmm. On documentary 2, he says he knows who shot him because he shot them back. Now, unless you're saying throughout the history of your rap career, at some point you found these niggas when you were famous, mind you, because the document, he was already famous when documentary came out.
Hey, nigga, you gotta come on
unless
screen,
you
bro.
shot a nigga and killed him after you became famous, then you're just lying. Like, because you just said you never found them niggas. Now you're saying you shot them niggas. You can't be both. Like,
Hey, you got to throw yourself on screen, Shane. 'Cause I need to see you when I say this,
yeah.
bro. That sound real DA-ish. That's that whole the way you broke it down sounded real like he's on the stand and you was asking him questions and you have evidence. You didn't say this. Well, let me get the clicker and go right. Like
That shit popped into my head instantly when he was like, "Gay and be lying." I'm like, yeah, there's a real big one that popped into my head. You said you shot the niggas that shot you, but on your first album, you said still ain't found them niggas.
maybe that's just to throw him off.
I mean, maybe,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Maybe.
But he's done that a few times though. Like in songs, he's gotten shot 5 times in songs, and then he's gotten shot 3 times in songs. It's like, all right, well,
All right, which one is it?
you know what I'm saying? That's kind of a
I mean,
important.
He lies a lot in interviews too, but that's a whole other story.
hey, if you want to add interview, if you just want to not lyrics, if you want to add interviews to the list, right? I will take Rick Ross off for a new number 1 and say Kevin Gates.
He's the best.
I will
Kevin
say,
Gates is the
batteries,
greatest flyer
bare hands.
ever.
Amazing.
He's one of the greatest
speak
flyers
nothing
ever.
of this.
Yeah, he's amazing. He's starting car batteries with his bare hands and shit. Like, he's amazing.
Hey.
Yeah, that shit, bro. That shit.
If we're gonna add interviews to the mix, Kevin is number 1, bro. Like
He found out he was smashing his cousin and kept doing it after the fact because he was already doing it. So fuck it. Like
I hope that is a lie. I
hope-
really hope.
that's a lie.
but hold
I
on.
hope everything about it's a lie. Like I hope you were
Everything about it was a
smashing
lie.
her, like none of that.
So
Shit.
like as much as it's a lie, right? Equally, it's like a 49-51. It could be true. And at the same time, like, well, nigga, I already smashed and I ain't know, and I mean, and I like this, so like, shit, why I'm gonna stop?
That's what
Like
he said. That's
both-
literally
That's what he's
Like-
saying. Well, I'm gonna stop.
Like I. So put it like this: I know 2 different like friend circle of mine. I know that answer for both of them. Like I know one friend to be like, "Oh yeah, bro, I found out that was my cousin," and I was like, "Shit, I quit it." I know another nigga who be like, "Well, shit, nigga. I mean, I was already doing this shit. I mean, I ain't gonna deny me for being happy."
that's,
It's like,
that's out of pocket. That's all the way out of
Super
pocket.
out of pocket.
Right.
But just to spin the block on that one point, 50 actually took his name, 50 Cent. He took that name from a gangster from Brooklyn, actually, whose name was 50 Cent, but he got killed. And so the 50 Cent, you know.
So okay, but hold on. But hear me out on this. So first of all, let's just hear me out. We both 50 was a gangster, right? He
You
just
talking
took the
about-
name. He took the name of another gangster.
Correct.
You know, that's different than you not being a gangster, taking the lifestyle of a gangster, and then like
Him
that's
being
not,
a parole officer.
like that's more almost like role model is not the right word. Homage, you know. I didn't get the name 50 Cent. Oh no, it was a gangster back in the day who, you know, did X, and I liked the way he moved, and you know, I took the name and ran with it. You know, that's more of a
Yep.
Rick Ross has never said paid homage to Free, because this is, if he did, I feel like it would have never been a question if he cashed the real Freeway Ricky Way out. So
You know why Rick Ross is the greatest rap liar ever? Because after he got caught, he did not give a fuck. He doubled down on, if anything. Like, especially when the correctional officer shit came up. Like, yeah, he had to admit to it a little bit, but he didn't act like he was out of the streets or anything like that by admitting to that. Like, if anything, he doubled down. And then even in the rap lyrics, like, he kept rapping about being the biggest cocaine dealer in Miami afterwards. So that's why, to me, like, he sits at the top of the list, because people have caught him repeatedly on every lie that he's ever told, and he just does not give a fuck at all.
And
point.
you know, he also moved with Gunplay. Gunplay in Florida was you know, the Haitian King Von, nigga. I
He
mean,
was
let's not
Was he really?
yeah. Like he moved with he moved with some real hitters. Like you know, that is I can't even say they told Tekashi affiliated because Gunplay was part of Maybach Music. Like they were, you know, they were 1 and 2. So I mean, even if he wasn't, I'm gonna make sure that what's portrayed of me and who I surround myself with is that. I mean, that's why I was never questioned. You know,
Yeah.
shit. I mean, even let's go. We just said Big Meech. Let's even get into the shit with the song BMF. Jeezy got mad at Rick Ross for making the song BMF because nigga, you weren't BMF. You made the song, and you're not affiliated with BMF at all. Like you knew of them, like club or but you weren't affiliated with them. Not enough to make a song. And not enough to check in with somebody if you are gonna make it. Like it was a whole big thing. That was a big fucking deal.
I probably would have been mad too because that song was huge. That was like when Rick Ross came back and like switched his whole sound up.
Yeah,
They got into it backstage at an award show over that song.
yeah. So
yeah, that's right. I remember that.
So I don't know. It's been some real hip hop atrocities, you know, with name. What we're gonna do? Hip hop NIL, name, image, and likeness. Of fucking gangsters out here, you know.
So that's a good one, right? Because we was talking about Game. That's one thing that a lot of people who diss him say about him, and people who aren't cool about him. They say that he's rapping his brother's life, and he was more so just kind of an affiliate who was around it, but he wasn't in the gang as much as he's talking about Game. So, and he basically is rapping about his brother Big Phase's life. Like that's the guy who's really from the gang, who was really out here in the streets doing XYZ. And Game is just a good rapper, so he took that image. And now I'm not saying that's true or not because I'm not from Cali. I don't know because I've heard plenty of the other side too, where they're like, "No, Game was really out here." So I don't know, but
I think Game is out there enough to be solidified by gang leadership in California to where if he wasn't, he was coined by them that he was.
Yeah. My question though is, what do you think about that? Because there's another rapper that I think we're gonna bring up who essentially did that as well. You know what I'm saying? Just basically took his brother's image and his brother's story and portrayed it as his own.
Who are you talking about, Gotti?
Oh, Plies. Yeah.
Yo.
Yeah.
I have heard that they said that he has like he puts on a character like that voice. Is it supposedly not really how he talks?
It's not at all.
It's not.
He
it's his
way more proper. He sounds like me damn near.
It's his news anchor voice.
Got you.
Yeah, like plot. Yeah. Oh, damn.
But I didn't know about his brother. So
one.
yeah, fill us in, Shane. What about his brother?
So I guess his brother was really a street guy. You know, he did prison time, things like that. You know, so basically anything violent, anything street that Plies was ever rapping about wasn't things that he did. These were things that his brother was, you know, participating in, allegedly. But again, the character switch thing, definitely. Matter of fact, Jamie Foxx spoke on that. He said when 40 Glock and them ran up on them when they were shooting, what's the name of the song that Plies and Jamie Foxx had? Please excuse my hands. When they were shooting that video, 40 Glock and a gang of Crips from Cali ran up on the video shoot, right? And I guess Plies ran in the bathroom and tucked his chain in. And Jamie Foxx had to kind of smooth everything over because they wasn't there for him. They was there. This was really when the whole no flight zone and check-ins and all of that shit was like really, really a big thing, and it was happening in multiple cities, right? So this was one of those things. They was like, Plies didn't check in with nobody, so we here to cause a problem, basically. Jamie Foxx had to smooth everything over, but when he was telling the story, he said, when I met Plies, I'm thinking he's gonna come out and be like, yeah, you know what I'm saying, so we're gonna get to. He was like, no, it was none of that. It was like, okay, so here's the contract, here are the particulars, and you know what I'm saying? Like, and then he said Jamie Foxx said Plies ran and hid in the bathroom when the Crip showed up. You know what I'm saying? And after he left, he didn't have his chain on no more because he thought they was gonna try to take his chain. So big goon Plies. You know what I'm saying?
First of all, Plies is a little nigga. Let's just
he is.
he's a Kurt Franklin size nigga. Like, you know, he's not a big guy. So I don't fault him for scurrying. It's because we always say fight or flight. And nigga, he had fast feet, you know, that nigga was out of there. Like, nigga, I'm not gonna fuck with that. Like, I mean, I can't, but everybody don't move in a goon way, like, you know, in an entourage heavy way.
But that's the issue when all of your raps, you're goon this, goon that, thug this,
Right.
thug that. That was his whole first album.
Yeah,
His whole like first 3 albums.
Yeah, I mean, so I remember seeing it live, and this is, you know, when rappers live shows do things that impact people or a demographic of people that, you know, that aren't really known, right? So everybody not everyone knows or has somebody who is in the correctional facility. Like, you might know somebody that went to jail, but you don't, like, you didn't necessarily care for them or their situation or state, their family or whatever, like, while they were being incarcerated, right? So at his shows, he made an effort, go out of his way. Hey, who you know that's locked up? Put this on their books. Put this on their books. Put this, like, he made a name, and he also did it quietly too, because I mean, it was also at his shows. But if fans or somebody came up to him, you know, it was almost like the Cat Williams approach. You know, he give you $500, put this on there, but they be like, oh yeah, Plies held me down when I was in jail. You know, the family, and that people don't know that. You know, if you never been with somebody, oh yeah, you know, my brother did this, or my sister did that, or my cousin did this, and we had to put them, like, that wasn't mainstream. So he brought attention to it, and he was like, no, people believed it. I say Plies is the gatekeeper, because I think he's like the fit. Like, even though he was lying, he was still real, if that makes sense. And it, you know, he was real enough to say, like,
I don't think it does.
It does.
No, I like what he was talking about before we found out that he was rapping about someone's life that wasn't his. When he actually was rapping about it, he was one of those rappers who, before we knew he was putting on a front, it just sounded so believable because of, number one, the actual voice and the way, and then two, the way that he rapped.
Right.
Like, it was that combination of the two. Like, it was, not only did it like feel like it authentic, it sounded like it. So then when the flip happened and we found out that that's not really you, that's when it's like looked at as like this big shock. Like, say what you want about the Rick Ross shit, but when we found out that he was a correctional facility officer, niggas were stunned at that.
Yeah.
Yes.
But so I got this is another question too. So we agree that he didn't live it, right? That wasn't his life. He didn't live it.
Right.
But we can also agree, because of the way he talked about it and rapped about it and portrayed it, he was very close to it. You know, I might not have shot him, but nigga, I was in the passenger seat. You know, like, I don't.
But you know who made that work?
Who?
Kendrick Lamar. That's who Kendrick Lamar is. Kendrick Lamar is the nigga that was around it, who didn't directly participate, but he grew up in it. His homies were all in it. His homies, sometimes he would, every now and then get in a fight over where he was from or something like that, but he was not the shooter type nigga. You know what I'm saying? So that angle is possible. So I guess my question is, do you think Plies could still be Plies if he's a little bit more honest about his story? If he's like, I got a brother that's locked up, you know what I'm saying, who used to hold it down, and you know what I'm saying? Like, he's telling that story through his raps rather than making it seem like it's him.
So I think, to answer your question efficiently and effectively, you have to look at the times of music and the transition of where, like, hip hop and music were at. There are questions to this day and things that we do not know about Tupac Shakur, and we have to go on interviews and this and that, and you have to have the fucking Tupac archive aficionado who listen to Machiavelli in the dark with a blindfold, who understands the lyrical translations and because we just weren't there when it happened. Now with social media, digitals, able to go back and look at things, we're at a different time and space. And I think Plies was at that transition to where you could get away with both. Today, absolutely not. Then, yes. To answer your question, it's honestly both. It's literally both, because there can't be another Plies today. I don't think someone could come out today and say, I don't think Sexy Red could say that's my sister's life, and then she still not and be like, oh my God, you mean you not ratchet? That's not you? That's yo girl. Like, that couldn't happen today.
Yeah, especially because like you said, shit is too, like, it's too insular now. Like, we know everything about everybody's shit now. Everybody, or people who, especially the like online smart fans, they would sniff that shit out in a heartbeat.
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I think that you're right about social media. Like, people definitely do love a good online investigation, but I don't know. I think it's always about like how much you want to post. So Plies got away with it for like a lot of years, just because it's also about the people in the industry not wanting to talk about it. Like, how many people knew that wasn't his real voice, So it's like, I don't know. I think maybe you could, because these people, I think that a lot of people nowadays really are more of an artist in the sense of like they put on a character, and then they start to have people write for them, and they have to just mainly focus on the persona and not so much on like living that life or telling a story through their music that is like consistent every single time. I think now people are able to kind of like, as long as I can pop enough online by doing something crazy or staying in a niche or whatever, then after a while, I feel like they don't necessarily like have to be about that life. Just like Rick Ross, like he didn't have to be about that life. I don't know. I think you control your social media, so you can control like what is put out there. And then even with these blogs, like, as long as you're not posting anything that's too sensitive or too obvious, a lot of times like they don't do enough investigative work nowadays, so I don't know. I think you could probably get off with it, but that's just my opinion.
Well, let me ask you this, Ali, because you're as the woman on the podcast, I'm curious about this. Even though Marcus is the Glorilla president, the fan club president, I want to ask you this, because listening to her album, she touches on a lot of very personal things that she's been through that other women could relate to, right? So, she's talked about having abortions and things like that, right? Things that I haven't really heard in rap before. And I'm like, oh shit, like this is, it's that authenticity, right? Mm-hmm. How would you feel if you found out that was her homegirl story? And that didn't happen to her, but she's a good artist, so she can paint the picture, but that's not her story. That's her homegirl story. How would you feel?
wouldn't feel bad about it at all. I wouldn't feel any way because I feel like rappers are more of storytellers than anything. I feel like nowadays it's more of a trend that like every single thing that you say and do has to like line up. I don't think that it has to. Like I think that as long as you're telling a story, you're being creative, as long as you're being outside the box, I think that you are doing what you're supposed to do as a rapper. I don't think that you necessarily are like a politician where it's like we want you to tell the truth, you have to back it up with evidence. Just like there's so many different artists out there who I keep thinking of Tupac. I don't know why I had Tupac on the brain so much, but like he was really good at like telling different stories and examples. We mentioned Kendrick, even like Kendrick did that a few different times, of telling even like stories of women. So like I think that as long as you're telling a story that can be true to somebody within your life or within the audience that you're trying to speak to, or or where you're from, I think that you can get away with it. Now I think it's a stretch to have a whole persona after someone like Rick Ross taking the name and then just being like, yeah, I'm just everything that he said that he did, I'm going to say that I did. I think that is another level of lying. I think, I don't think that that's necessarily like creating a story so much as like stealing someone else's story. I don't know if that makes sense.
I kind of look at it in two different kind of ways. So I think Allie, I think I agree with you actually a lot on this one. I think it really depends on the type of artist that you are and the type of gimmick that you're portraying. I think that the artists who base more of their shit out of reality can kind of get away more with telling a story that is still somewhat rooted in reality that may not be their own, but it still comes from a real place, rather than somebody who's a gimmick who can kind of just pull shit out of a hat and tell whatever story they want. And at that point, it's kind of up to our own interpretation if we take that as fiction or nonfiction at that point. But I think when it comes to the rappers who actually like portray themselves as this is who I am, or at least this is who you're seeing is like a good portion of who I am, I do think that when they do tell stories, it is still important that if they are going to go outside of shit that isn't based on them, that it is still somewhat loosely based on something that maybe they know somebody that went through that. Like I've heard rappers say in interviews, oh, like my homie went through that and he told me that I could talk about that in a song, but I just portrayed it a little bit differently. I've heard that plenty of times. So I definitely think it's possible, but it's definitely has to do with the gimmick that you're portraying. And if you're basing your shit off of this is a reality of who I am, or I'm giving you a complete different character change.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think it's a big difference exactly between like making yourself the persona rather than just like telling a story, portraying someone else's life and so that you can give better example of like what type of lifestyle this is about, or what these people might go through and whatever situation it is. So yeah, I think that you're totally right. But yeah, I think it depends. Like and out of all of this, I think I'd love to rank to see who we think is the biggest liar out of all the people that we spoke on. My vote is going to Rick Ross. I feel like that is the best example of the biggest liar. But hey, man, like what a motivational brand story. What a rebrand over there. So I guess some people could take motivation from it. What do you guys think?
Nah, Rick Ross is by far the most successful liar in rap. By far.
Yeah, this is gonna sound crazy to say, but Rick Ross has actually lapped every other rapper. Like that's just how far he had like that's a crazy thing to say, but yeah, you gotta Rick Ross, man.
And the
Dude.
craziest shit about Rick Ross is all he had to do was do it the way that 50 did it. And just basically say, if he had a from the beginning said, I was really a drug dealer, I really did my thing in Miami, yada, yada, yada. But, you know, I was inspired by Freeway Rick Ross, so I decided to name myself that, you know, as a rapper, because I saw what he was doing in Cali in the 90s and inspired me to try to do something in Miami. That would have worked, and nobody would have ever said anything about this nigga. You know what I'm saying? But the fact that he denied he didn't even know who Rick Ross was. This nigga said that when he played football in high school, this is what he said in court, mind you, when Rick Ross tried to sue him. And why what Marcus said at the very beginning is true, and Freeway Ricky Ross actually owes Rick Ross money because he lost the lawsuit, so he's responsible for paying Def Jam's attorney fees, which was like $2 million or something like that. So Freeway Ricky Ross currently owes Def Jam $2 million. Let's just keep that in mind also. But the reason that happened is because so the rapper Rick Ross says when he was in high school, his nickname was Big Boss. And he said that rhymes with Rick Ross, and that's how he came up with the rap name Rick Ross, is because it rhymed with Big Boss. So he tried to act like he'd never even heard of this nigga. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's where it's like, all right, bro, this is crazy and disrespectful and wild. Like, what are you doing? Like,
that's
This
a
has
really bad
great
lie.
lawyers, though.
yeah, Big Boss, Rick Ross. Come on, fam. Like, you're
Hey,
the
so this
horrible
is
lie.
my nigga.
this-
Like,
this is crazy because there was this lawyer here in St. Louis, and she would have these commercials that are like iconic in like St. Louis. This is like 10, 15 years ago, like when the radio, like this is like before the 411 pain commercials and shit. And her slogan was, "It's not whether they said you did what you did, it's whether they can prove what you did. Call my offices on LaRonda Burke." Like that, like the shit is in your head because that's literally what they would say over and over and over again. So it was like, it's never what you did, it's what can they prove. So Eric, not Eric, Shane, how could he prove that in high school that I called my, like, that's, so when you said that, I was like, damn, they can't prove that he didn't say that his name in high school was the biggest boss and that rhymed. Like, that's an actual defense that could work, because how can you disprove it?
Right.
that's why he's the best liar in rap,
Yeah.
right there. Like, that's why he's the
That
top
nigga
liar.
is Usain Bolt of lap running right now.
That's a horrible and a great lie at the same time, because you're right. How can you disprove that?
Right.
Yeah.
It's fucking wild.
And I guess he's what is it? He's turning his place into a zoo or something like that, so he can avoid certain types of taxes and everything. So like, Rick Ross is forever out here scheming and coming up with some type of way to rip somebody off. So yeah, I think that he definitely wins the title of biggest liar on this episode. But all right, I hope that everybody at home had a good time watching this one as much as we love putting on a show for you guys. So be sure to check us out every week on the Ethos Media Network Patreon page and the YouTube page for new episodes of Bar Exam, and we will see you guys on the next one. Bye, guys.